All right, let's unpack the official press conference that just kicked off a massive new military campaign called Operation Epic Fury. We've got the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, and CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brett Cooper laying out a strategy of what they're calling overwhelming force. So we're going to break down exactly what they said and, more importantly, what it all really means. Right off the bat, the briefing starts with this incredibly strong statement from Secretary Hegseth. This isn't an accident. The language, devastating, precise strikes, is chosen to immediately frame this operation as a huge success, right from the get-go. It's not a struggle, it's a display of power. So what is Operation Epic Fury, really? Let's dig into how they officially defined the mission. Admiral Cooper laid it out pretty clearly. This operation, which was just 6 days old when they held this briefing, has a single goal: take away Iran's ability to threaten Americans. And how are they going to do that? With overwhelming force. That phrase, that's the key to this whole thing. Okay, so they're talking a big game with overwhelming force, but has it been effective? Let's take a look at the actual battlefield results they presented. The first big number they dropped had to do with the Navy. According to Admiral Cooper, in less than a week, more than 30 Iranian ships were either sunk or just completely destroyed. I mean, that is a staggering number for the very start of a campaign. And they claim these strikes are having a huge effect on Iran's ability to hit back. CENTCOM is reporting a massive drop in attacks coming out of Iran. Look at this, a 90% decrease in ballistic missile attacks and an 83% decrease in drone attacks. The message here is clear. The strategy is working. And this isn't just happening on the coast. No, we're talking about almost 200 targets hit deep inside Iran, some as far in as Tehran. They're using B-2 stealth bombers to hit targets buried deep underground and even struck what they called Iran's Space Command. They even gave a specific example. A huge Iranian drone carrier, about the size of a World War II aircraft carrier, was hit and is apparently still on fire. But military action is only half the equation. Secretary Hegseth spent a lot of time hammering home the U.S. commitment to seeing this through, and he built his case around 4 pillars of American resolve. And this quote right here, this is the core of that message. The point he's making is that no one else gets to decide when this operation ends. He's saying the timeline is controlled by the U.S. and the U.S. alone. It's a statement of total control. So how do you back up a claim like ironclad will? Well, Hegseth laid out these 4 pillars. First, the will to fight, which he says is actually growing stronger. Second, the munitions. He claims stockpiles are full and can sustain this indefinitely. Third, capabilities, with a pretty chilling reminder that what's deployed now is just a fraction of the total combat power available. And finally, authorities, saying commanders have maximum authorities to do what they need to do. And this is where Hegseth really drew a line in the sand, trying to separate this operation from past wars. He basically painted a picture of previous conflicts being bogged down by vague goals and restrictive rules. This time, he argues, it's the total opposite: a crystal clear objective and maximum freedom for commanders to achieve it. Now, whenever you hear about a campaign this intense, 2 huge questions always come up. Can we actually trust the information we're getting? And is this whole thing about to spiral out of control into a wider war? They tried to get ahead of both of those. A reporter in the room put the propaganda issue front and center, directly challenging them on rumors that an American F-15 had been shot down. Hegseth's response was a flat-out denial. He just dismissed it as Iranian propaganda. He claimed it was all part of a campaign of lies, deception, and inflation of numbers, designed to fool their own people, especially since the internet was apparently shut down inside the country. So the next logical question is about the bigger picture. With strikes happening deep inside Iran, is this thing about to explode into a massive regional war? And honestly, the official answer was the exact opposite of what you might expect. Hegseth argued that the conflict is actually simplifying. His claim is that Iran's aggression is backfiring, and it's pushing its own neighbors, like the UAE, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia, closer to the U.S. So instead of chaos, he's suggesting a more unified regional front is actually forming against Iran. Okay, so where do things go from here? The last part of the briefing laid out a very aggressive, very clear plan for the next phase of Operation Epic Fury. The plan going forward is basically a 3-step escalation. First, they're not just going to destroy existing weapons, they're going to start dismantling Iran's ability to even produce new ones. Second, they're going to keep pouring more forces and hardware into the region. And third, they promised a dramatic surge in the number and power of bomber flights over Iran. And what was the message to the civilians actually living in Iran? It was incredibly direct and pretty chilling. Admiral Cooper essentially told the Iranian people to stay in your homes and lay low because a massive wave of firepower is on its way. So there you have it. The plan laid out in the briefing is crystal clear. Use overwhelming force to take apart Iran's military machine. But it leaves one huge critical question just hanging in the air over this entire operation. What happens after the bombing stops?